High above the city, on a tall column, stood the statue of the Happy Prince. He was gilded all over with thin leaves of fine gold. For eyes, he had 2 bright sapphires, and a large red ruby glowed on his sword hilt. Why did he want to part with all the gold that he had and his precious stones? Let's get into the story and find out what his reason was. All right, let me tell you this beautiful but heart-wrenching story of The Happy Prince by Oscar Wilde. So, picture this. A prince who lived in a palace with everything he could ever want. He was so content that he never even knew what sadness or suffering was. He would spend his days gazing out of his windows, enjoying the view of the city below. But here's the catch. The moment he died, everything changed. They made a beautiful statue of him and placed it in the town square. Now, this is where the story gets interesting. The statue was made of gold, and it was covered in precious stones. Sapphires for his eyes, rubies on his sword hilt, and his whole body was gilded in gold. From the outside, he looked perfect, a glorious image of a prince who had it all. But the thing was, the prince could no longer feel anything. He was just a statue, standing high above the city, looking at the suffering all around him. One cold winter evening, a little swallow flew into the city on its way to Egypt. It was tired and looking for a place to rest. It spotted the statue of the Happy Prince and decided to stay under his base for the night. But before the swallow could sleep, a large drop of water fell on him.
There is not a single cloud in the sky. The stars are quite clear and bright, and yet it is raining. What is the use of a statue if it cannot keep the rain off?
He looked up and saw. The eyes of the Happy Prince were filled with tears, and tears were running down his golden cheeks. The swallow was surprised.
Why are you weeping?
Asked the swallow.
When I was alive and had a human heart, I did not know what tears were, for I lived in the palace, where sorrow is not allowed to enter. My courtiers called me the Happy Prince, and happy indeed I was. So I lived, and so I died. And now that I am dead, they have set me up here so high that I can see the ugliness and all the misery of my city. And though my heart is made of lead, yet I cannot choose but weep,
answered the statue. The prince asked the swallow to help him. He asked the swallow to take the precious jewels and gold off his statue and give them to the poor people in the city. First, the swallow was hesitant. It didn't want to delay its trip to Egypt, but seeing the prince's sorrow, it agreed to help. The first thing the swallow did was take the prince's ruby from the sword and give it to a woman seated at a table. Her face is thin and worn, and she has coarse red hands, all pricked by the needle, for she is a seamstress. In a bed in the corner of the room, her little boy is lying ill. His mother has nothing to give him but river water. The next day, the swallow took one of the prince's sapphires and gave it to a poor playwright. He is leaning over a desk covered with papers. His lips are red as a pomegranate, and he has large and dreamy eyes. He is trying to finish a play for the director of the theater, but he is too cold to write anymore. There is no fire in the grate, and hunger has made him faint. And then, the prince asked the swallow to pluck out his last remaining jewel from his eye. The swallow hesitated.
I cannot pluck out your eye. You would be quite blind then,
said the swallow.
Swallow, swallow, little swallow, do as I command you,
said the prince. So he plucked out the prince's other eye and darted down with it. He swooped past the little match girl who let all the matches fall in the gutter and is now crying because she cannot get the money to take it to her father. The swallow slipped the jewel into the palm of her hand.
What a lovely bit of glass!
Cried the little girl, and she ran home, laughing.
Now you must go away to Egypt,
Said the poor prince.
No, you are blind now, so I will stay with you always.
The swallow stayed longer than it intended, as it kept delivering the prince's riches to those in need. It became very fond of the prince, and the prince's sadness became its sadness too. Eventually, the weather grew colder, and the swallow knew it couldn't stay much longer. The prince asked one last favor, to remove the gold leaf covering his statue and distribute it among the poor people of the city. The swallow became his eyes and did just that, flying all over the town, giving away every last piece of gold. Now, the prince had nothing left. He was a statue with no jewels, no gold, and no beauty left. But he was happy because he and the bird had helped the people who needed it the most. As winter turned even colder, the swallow, now exhausted, lay at the feet of the statue. That night, the swallow died from the cold, lying by the prince. The prince's heart, which had been made of lead all along, broke into two from the immense sadness he suffered from the loss of his friend. When the city's people saw the statue, they were surprised to find it all dull and lifeless. The mayor of the city was angry.
Dear me, how shabby the happy prince looks. The ruby has fallen out of his sword, his eyes are gone, and he is golden no longer. In fact, he is little better than a beggar. And here is actually a dead bird at his feet. We must really issue a proclamation that birds are not to be allowed to die here.
Then they melted the statue in a furnace, but the broken lead heart could not be melted. So they threw it on a dust heap where the dead swallow was also lying. But there was one person who understood what had really happened.
Bring me the two most precious things in the city,
said God to one of his angels. The angels in heaven had noticed the swallow's devotion and the prince's sacrifice. So they took both of them to heaven, where they would live forever in a place where there was no sadness, no hunger, and no suffering.
You have rightly chosen. For in my garden of paradise, this little bird shall sing forevermore, and in my city of gold, the happy prince shall praise me.
And that, my friends, is the story of the Happy Prince. It's a tale about love, sacrifice, and how true happiness doesn't come from wealth or beauty, but from giving to others.